Last time I showed you how to fit new brake hubs and rotors. This time I'm showing you the proper way to fit brake pads. To help with access when replacing the rotors, I removed the calipers. If you're just replacing brake pads, there's two mounting bolts which hold the caliper to the caliper frame. Loosen the top one and remove the lower one. The caliper simply then swings upwards. The rest of the procedure, however, is the same. Now you want to bleed some brake fluid for the next step. Right, so go to your brake master cylinder, unclip it. Brake fluid is extremely corrosive, so don't let it spill anyway. Okay. Right. So now you need to suck some out, some of the brake fluid, because you will be displacing it as you push the pistons back into the cylinders to fit the new thicker brake pads. So I've thoroughly cleaned out another bottle and using it to suck out some brake fluid. You can use a syringe or whatever you have. Try not to spill it, and if you do, wash it off immediately with water all around, but put the cap back on first. Otherwise, if you don't do this, you might find that you're overflowing uncontrollably. So that should do. The front reservoir actually is for the front brakes because it's a split system on these cars. The rear is for the rear brakes, but anyway. Okay, so blow off the spider that just landed there and fit the cap back, because you don't want any contaminants getting in there at all. Then hose it all off. Then we'll move to the next step of fitting the pads. Now you've all seen this part, I'm sure. Now it's time to wind back the calipers in order to fit the new pads. So using your old disc pad, slot that in there. And you can buy a special tool for this, but if you don't, just use a G-clamp and just wind them back. That's why we took out the brake fluid, to allow for the displacement of that. So once you put the G-clamp around the caliper, it's best to go from this angle. Just slowly tighten them up, and that will push the pistons back into the cylinders to facilitate the new pads going in the place of the old ones. And you might want to swap backwards and forwards here. As you do this, you'll see the brake level rise in the reservoir. Just check it all when you're finished to make sure it's at the right level. While the caliper's hanging there, you might want to check that this is floating okay. See how it moves in and out? That's not bound up. Check the other side as well. And if there's any doubt, take the bolts out, clean them up, clean the threads, clean any corrosion off the bolts, and grease them up with the proper grease and re-torque them, because that needs to slide in order not to have the brakes binding. But you can see these are moving in relation to the frame there, so that should be okay. Now it's time to put these lovely rotors, beautiful Bosch rotors. It's really not worth having your old ones machined. There it is, another rotor. And first we're going to have to clean off the surface. So with some brake degreaser, I'm going to take it out of here. And yes, they're quite greasy. Let's spray some brake cleaner liberally over there. Do this a couple of times and wipe it off with a paper towel. Do both sides, because they do have grease on them from the factory. And repeat for the other disc. You'll be surprised what crap comes off brand new discs. You see tiny little bits of machining, which is why we do it, to increase the longevity of the pads, etc. So once they're nice and clean, we can move on to the next step. Actually, if you really want to, you can do that to the face of the pads as well. Just give them a quick wipe over. Just to get that packing. Normally I try Bosch pads, but trying these Repco ones is supposed to be pretty good. Just give them a quick wipe over. It's optional if you want to do this or not. On the back of that, you'll find the anti-rattle shims, but I always put a coating of rubber grease on there anyway, because I don't like noisy brakes. Okay, so using some disc brake quiet, we're going to smear liberally the back of these pads that we're about to install. And just spread it around with your finger. This will just make sure, extra sure, that you don't get an annoying squeak. And let that go tacky or dry for about 10 minutes. Doesn't matter if it dries completely, really. So now's the time to cut that string or undo that wire that's been supporting the calipers since you took them off. Alright, so now you want to get a bit of, I use rubber grease anyway, just to lubricate the slide. And it's high melting point, so maybe just put a dab in there and a dab in there. Likewise a dab in there and a dab in there. That should work its way through alright. Alright, so then making sure the clips are in place. This is still a bit tacky. Put those in position like so. See, there's now plenty of clearance. Yes, it's probably a good idea to let that wait, let that dry. Anyway, put his mate in opposite and slide his mate up here into the corresponding slot, which is not easily seen. Make sure they're in there, and then you should be able to quite easily with a bit of a wrestle with the ice cream man going by, mount those back if you can find the holes, which I can't. So if your threads are clean, that's good. If not, why brush them? Use a little bit of thread locker. Do not ever use stud lock. That should do. Use some of that on each bolt and screw them into the caliper. Now once you've nipped those up firmly, torque them down to the specified torque using a torque wrench, please. And then don't forget to reattach the brake hose to where it came from. And that's how we do that. And if you like, you can give them another going over with some brake cleaner on both sides, and then just refit your dust shield if you're going to reuse it, unless you want to try what I'm thinking of trying and just going without it. And then simply repeat the exact same procedure for the other side. You can add a blob of anti-seize if you like onto these studs, or a drop of oil, just to make sure life's easier next time you remove the wheels. And just check the brake fluid level, make sure it's up to where it should be. If not, top up with the appropriate fluid. All that's left to do now is lower the car to the ground. Tighten the wheel nuts. Press the brake pedal a couple of times to make sure the brake pads are next to the disc. Oh, feels good. Then go for a road test. It was worth busting my hand again over. Not. Oh, that's so much better. If you haven't already, please check out the video at the end on replacing hubs and rotors. Excellent brakes. They're really, really good. Thanks for joining me. I hope this has helped someone, and if you have any questions, leave a comment below. And if you like the video, please subscribe and share to others that may find it useful. Cheers.